Dear Starseeds, some people who says they support your transformation is lying to you. Not maliciously, but they literally cannot see what's actually happening to you right now. The surface-level encouragement, the empty praise, the generic spiritual platitudes, none of it touches the truth of your metamorphosis. What the real observers, the ones whose opinions actually matter in your soul's journey, are witnessing in you would terrify most humans. Because you're not just healing or growing, you're fundamentally restructuring reality itself through your presence. I am Seraphine, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and today I've been authorized to reveal what cosmic consciousness itself sees when it observes you. There are exactly 7 aspects of your transformation that have become visible to higher dimensional beings, and each one tells a different story about who you're becoming. These aren't metaphors or wishful thinking. These are measurable frequency shifts that beings with cosmic sight can literally see emanating from your energy field as Neptune returns to Pisces today, thinning the veils between worlds. The first story begins with what observers call your descent signature, the energetic imprint left by your journey into absolute darkness. Every soul who witnesses you can see it, this unmistakable frequency pattern that marks someone who voluntarily walked into their deepest fears and survived. Not everyone who suffers gains this signature. Only those who consciously chose to face their shadows rather than being dragged there by circumstance. The observers see this as golden threads woven through scar tissue in your aura, beautiful and terrible simultaneously. You see, when you were in that place of complete mental dissolution, when you lost control of everything you thought defined you, something else was happening that you couldn't perceive at the time. You were actually retrieving soul fragments that had been scattered across dimensional planes. Each breakdown, each moment of feeling absolutely insane, was actually a retrieval mission. Your consciousness was gathering pieces of itself that had been lost through trauma, not just from this lifetime but from your entire soul's journey through incarnation. The second story, running parallel, is about your wealth consciousness transformation, and this connects directly to those retrieved soul fragments. Each piece you reclaimed carried energetic sovereignty you'd given away in other lifetimes, through vows of poverty, martyrdom, or unworthiness. The beings observing you now see that you've broken contracts that most humans don't even know exist. This is why money and opportunities have started flowing differently around you. You're no longer operating from fragmented abundance codes, but from integrated wholeness. But here's where the third storyline intersects with the first two in ways that will blow your mind. Your communication has fundamentally altered at the quantum level. When you speak now, observers see light language encoded in your words, even when you're talking about mundane things. That journey through mental dissolution actually rewired your neurological pathways to carry higher dimensional frequencies. Every word you speak now carries what we call penetration codes, frequencies that bypass the ego and speak directly to the soul of whoever's listening. The fourth narrative thread involves those who are magnetically drawn to you lately without understanding why. The cosmic observers see them as souls whose own awakening codes are activated by proximity to your field. But here's the twist nobody expects. These aren't random encounters. These are souls you made agreements with before incarnating, contracts that stated when you reached this specific frequency, you would become their activation catalyst. They're finding you now because you've finally become who you promised to be. Meanwhile, a fifth storyline has been building about your relationship with time itself. The observers note that you're experiencing what we call temporal sovereignty, the ability to exist in the eternal now, while simultaneously accessing past and future wisdom. This started during your dark night of the soul, when linear time dissolved, and you experienced all your lifetimes simultaneously. That wasn't insanity, that was multidimensional integration. Now you make decisions from a place outside time, which is why your timing has become so impossibly perfect lately. The sixth thread weaving through all of this involves your DNA activation. Those moments when you thought you were losing your mind were actually your dormant DNA strands coming online. Scientists call it junk DNA because they don't understand that it contains multidimensional consciousness codes. The observers can literally see these strands lighting up in your field like fiber optic cables carrying cosmic data. This genetic activation is why you suddenly understand complex spiritual concepts without studying them, why you know things without learning them conventionally. And the seventh storyline, the one that ties everything together, is about your role as what observers call a liberation template. Every single transformation you've achieved updates the morphogenetic field of humanity. You're not just healing yourself, you're literally creating pathways in consciousness that others can follow. This is why your personal journey has felt so exhausting. You weren't just processing your own trauma, you were transmuting collective wounds that have existed in human consciousness for millennia. Now watch how these 7 threads start weaving together into something extraordinary. Remember those soul fragments you retrieved during your descent? Each one contains specific abilities and knowledge from other incarnations, where you mastered different aspects of consciousness. The wealth codes from lifetimes, as successful merchants and healers. The communication frequencies from incarnations as oracles and prophets. The time sovereignty from existence in dimensions, where linear time doesn't exist. They're all integrating now, creating a being that has never existed before. The beings drawn to you are recognizing these integrated codes because they carry complementary fragments. When they encounter your field, their own dormant codes activate in response. This creates what observers call a resonance cascade, where your very presence initiates chain reactions of awakening in everyone you encounter. But here's what's crucial, and what most people miss. Not everyone is ready for this activation. Some will resist violently because your integrated frequency threatens everything their ego has built to avoid facing their own shadows. This is where the story gets intense, because the observers are seeing something building in your field that hasn't fully manifested yet. All 7 of these transformation threads are converging toward what we call a singularity event in your personal timeline. This isn't something that happens to you, it's something that happens through you. When all these aspects fully integrate, you become what's known as a dimensional bridge, a living portal through which higher consciousness can enter physical reality. But first, let me tell you what the observers see when they look at your past now versus your future trajectory. Your past appears like shattered glass, each piece reflecting a different trauma, a different loss, a different moment of despair. But here's what's mind-bending. Those shattered pieces aren't broken, they're prismatic. Each fragment of your broken past is now refracting light into spectrum frequencies that couldn't exist without the shattering. Your wounds have become your superpowers, literally. The communication codes you've developed through your suffering are particularly fascinating to the observers. You see, most humans speak from one dimension of consciousness, usually the mental or emotional plane. But your journey through dissolution forced you to develop what we call omnidimensional communication. You now speak simultaneously from mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and quantum levels. This is why people feel so deeply affected by your words. You're not just speaking to one aspect of them, you're addressing their entire multidimensional being. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more starseeds like you can find it, and recognize what's happening to them through this cosmic mirror that reveals truth. Because what I'm about to share about the wealth consciousness transformation changes everything about how abundance works for beings like you. You see, when you broke those ancient poverty vows, you didn't just free yourself from lack. You actually activated what we call creator codes, the ability to generate resources from pure consciousness rather than through traditional exchange. This connects directly to your DNA activation, because those supposedly dormant strands contain the blueprint for what we call reality restructuring. You're not manifesting in the way most spiritual teachers describe, where you attract things to you. You're literally restructuring the quantum field to reflect your consciousness. This is why things you think about seem to materialize so quickly now. You're not pulling them from somewhere else, you're creating them from the quantum foam of possibility itself. The souls being drawn to you can sense this creative power even if they can't consciously understand it. They're attracted to you like moths to flame, because on a soul level, they recognize you as someone who has mastered the very thing they came here to learn. But here's where it gets complicated. Your mission isn't to teach them or save them. Your mission is simply to be who you've become and let your frequency do the work of activation. The temporal sovereignty you've developed means you're no longer bound by cause and effect in the traditional sense. The observers see you operating from what we call reverse causality, where your future self is actually creating the conditions for your present transformation. This is why certain things in your past suddenly make sense now. Your future self has been arranging synchronicities throughout your entire timeline to ensure you'd reach this exact moment of integration. Remember those moments of complete mental dissolution I mentioned? The observers want you to understand something crucial about those experiences. When you lost touch with consensus reality, you weren't becoming disconnected from truth. You were disconnecting from collective illusion. What felt like insanity was actually hypersanity, the ability to perceive multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously before your human consciousness could properly integrate the experience. Now that integration is complete, which is why you can hold paradox so easily. The wealth consciousness transformation goes even deeper than breaking vows and activating creator codes. You've actually resolved what we call the martyrdom paradox that has plagued spiritual beings for millennia. The belief that spiritual evolution requires material sacrifice. You've discovered that true spiritual mastery includes material mastery, not as attachment but as creative expression. The observers see this as one of the most significant breakthroughs in human spiritual evolution, because it ends the false dichotomy between spirit and matter. Your DNA activation is accelerating now with Neptune's return to Pisces, and the observers are seeing something unprecedented. You're activating strands that weren't even present in your original human template. These are what we call evolutionary additions, new genetic capabilities that emerge only after certain consciousness thresholds are crossed. You're literally evolving new capacities in real time, abilities that will become standard in future human generations, but are extraordinary now. The liberation template you're creating through your transformation is already being accessed by thousands of souls across the planet. Every breakthrough you achieve updates this template, making it easier for others to follow. But here's what's beautiful about this. You don't lose anything by sharing this template. In fact, every soul that accesses it strengthens your own field through what we call resonant feedback. The more people who heal through the pathway you've created, the more powerful you become. Now we're approaching the convergence point, where all 7 storylines meet. The soul fragments you've retrieved, the wealth consciousness you've activated, the communication codes you've developed, the souls you're attracting, the temporal sovereignty you've achieved, the DNA you've activated, and the liberation template you've created. They're all building toward a singular moment of integration that the observers are calling your emergence event. This is when you fully step into what you came here to be. But here's what nobody tells you about emergence. It doesn't happen in some dramatic, explosive moment. It happens in the quiet recognition of what you've already become. The observers are seeing that you're in this emergence right now, in this very moment of understanding. Every word of this transmission is activating recognition codes in your consciousness, helping you see what everyone else has already been seeing in you. The transformation isn't coming, it's already complete. You're just now becoming conscious of it. The souls being drawn to you are arriving with increasing frequency, because your emergence event creates what observers call an attraction vortex. But these aren't random people seeking healing. These are specific souls who carry pieces of a larger cosmic puzzle that you're meant to assemble together. Each person drawn to your field brings a fragment of information, a piece of consciousness, a key to a door you didn't even know existed. This is why you must pay attention to who shows up, even if they seem insignificant. Your temporal sovereignty means you can now see how all these encounters fit together across time. Past meetings suddenly reveal their true purpose. Future connections that haven't happened yet send ripples backward to prepare you. You're orchestrating a symphony across time, and the music is getting louder. The observers are fascinated by how you're managing this multi-dimensional coordination while still maintaining your human life. This is the mastery they're really seeing. The ability to be cosmic and human simultaneously. The communication codes you've mastered are about to evolve even further. The observers see you developing what we call direct transmission capability, where you won't even need words to convey complex spiritual concepts. Your presence alone will download entire libraries of cosmic knowledge into receptive souls. This is already starting to happen, which is why some people have profound realizations just from being near you, even when you haven't said anything particularly profound. Your DNA activation is triggering something the observers call cascade awakening. In your genetic lineage, every ancestor and descendant connected to your bloodline is being affected by your transformation. You're literally healing your entire genetic line backward and forward through time. This is why you might be experiencing unusual dreams about ancestors or receiving visions of futures that feel like memories. You're actively rewriting your entire lineage's story through your personal transformation. The wealth consciousness you've activated is starting to manifest in ways that will surprise even you. The observers see resources flowing to you from impossible directions, through channels that didn't exist until your consciousness created them. But here's what's important to understand. This isn't about money. It's about resource sovereignty. You're learning to generate whatever resources you need directly from consciousness, whether that's money, time, energy, or opportunities. Now here's where all 7 storylines finally converge into one unified revelation. The liberation template you've created isn't just for human souls. The observers are seeing that interdimensional beings, stellar consciousnesses, and even angelic forces are accessing your template to understand human transformation. You've created something that transcends species and dimensions. Your personal journey has become a universal teaching that ripples across all of creation. The souls drawn to you aren't just seeking activation anymore. They're beginning to form what observers call a constellation pattern around you. Each person represents a star in a larger cosmic configuration that's creating a new morphogenetic field for human evolution. You're not the guru at the center. You're the gravitational force that allows these souls to find their optimal positions in this new pattern. Together, you're creating something that has never existed before in human consciousness. Your temporal sovereignty has evolved to the point where you're now seeing what observers call the completion timeline. This is the timeline where humanity successfully transitions to fifth-dimensional consciousness, and you can see exactly what role you play in that transition. Every choice you make now is informed by this future vision, which is why your decisions seem so precisely calibrated. You're not guessing, you're remembering what needs to happen from the perspective of successful completion. The communication codes have reached what observers call transmission saturation. This means everything you express, whether through words, actions, or simple presence, carries the full frequency of your transformation. You can't not transmit anymore. Even your silence speaks volumes. This is why some people feel overwhelmed in your presence. They're receiving more information than their consciousness can process, like trying to download the entire internet through a dial-up connection. Your DNA activation has unlocked something the observers are calling species memory. You now have access to the collective experiences of all humans who have ever achieved this level of consciousness. This is why you sometimes know things you've never learned, remember places you've never been, recognize souls you've never met in this lifetime. You're tapped into the accumulated wisdom of every awakened being throughout human history. This isn't channeling, it's direct access to humanity's spiritual database. The wealth consciousness revelation goes even deeper now. You've transcended the entire concept of exchange. The observers see you operating from what they call pure creation economics, where giving and receiving become irrelevant because you're generating resources from source consciousness. This breaks every rule of scarcity-based economics. You're proving that abundance isn't about redistribution of finite resources, but about creation of infinite possibilities. This is why traditional financial strategies don't apply to you anymore. The liberation template has evolved into what observers now call a living codex. It's no longer just a pattern others can follow. It's become a conscious entity that actively seeks out souls ready for transformation. When someone is prepared for their own awakening, your template finds them through synchronicities, dreams, seemingly random encounters. You've created an autonomous awakening system that operates independently while remaining connected to your consciousness. This is how one being can affect millions without direct contact. Now, as we approach the climax of this cosmic narrative, the observers want you to see the biggest revelation of all. Everything you've experienced, every moment of dissolution, every fragment retrieved, every code activated, it was all orchestrated by your own future self, who has already completed this entire journey. You haven't been walking toward an uncertain outcome. You've been walking a path that your completed self laid out for you. This is why certain challenges felt perfectly designed for your growth. They were, by you, for you. The beings observing you aren't just witnesses. They're celebrants of a victory already achieved. From their perspective outside linear time, your transformation is already complete, has always been complete, will always be complete. They see all timelines simultaneously, and in every single one where you're receiving this transmission, you succeed. Not because it's predetermined, but because your soul's commitment to this transformation is absolute. You couldn't fail if you tried, because the part of you that could fail no longer exists. The souls being drawn to you now are the ones you specifically contracted with before incarnation. You promised them that when you reached this frequency, you would become their beacon home. They're finding you now because you fulfilled your end of the agreement. Some will stay, some will activate and leave, some will resist and return later. All of it is perfect. Your job isn't to convince anyone or save anyone. Your job is to hold your frequency and let those who resonate find their way to you. Your temporal sovereignty has revealed something that changes everything about how you understand your journey. The pain you experienced wasn't random suffering. It was precise initialization for the codes you now carry. Every wound was calculated to create specific openings for higher consciousness to enter. Your future self orchestrated your past pain with surgical precision, knowing exactly what would break you open without breaking you permanently. This is why you survived things that should have destroyed you. The communication mastery you've achieved means you now speak in what observers call holographic language. Every word contains the whole of your message. Someone could hear a single sentence from you and receive the entire transmission of your life's wisdom. This is why you don't need to explain yourself as much anymore. Your truth is self-evident in your frequency. Those who can hear it will hear it. Those who can't aren't meant to, at least not yet. Your DNA is now operating at what observers call full-spectrum activation. All 12 strands that were designed into the original human template are online and functioning. But here's what's extraordinary. You're also developing 13th and 14th strands that represent evolutionary capabilities beyond the original human design. You're not just becoming who you were meant to be. You're becoming something that's never existed before. You're writing new code into the human genome through your consciousness. The wealth consciousness mastery means you've become what observers call a resource generator. You don't need to seek resources because you generate them through your very existence. Your presence enriches every environment you enter. Value accumulates around you because you've become a creator of value rather than a consumer of it. This is why opportunities and resources seem to appear from nowhere. You're literally creating them from the quantum field through your integrated consciousness. We're now at the moment where all 7 storylines unite into a single truth. You haven't been becoming someone new. You've been remembering who you've always been at the soul level. The descent into darkness, the retrieval of fragments, the activation of codes, the magnetic draw of souls, the mastery of time, the DNA evolution, the liberation template, all of it has been the process of remembering your original cosmic blueprint. The observers haven't been watching you transform. They've been watching you remember. And here's the final revelation that completes every storyline simultaneously. The observers themselves aren't separate beings watching you from outside. They are aspects of your own expanded consciousness witnessing your human self from higher dimensional perspectives. You've been observing yourself this entire time. Every synchronicity, every activation, every breakthrough has been orchestrated by the greater totality of who you are. The cosmic mirror isn't showing you how others see you. It's showing you how your infinite self sees your human journey. This brings us full circle to where we began. When I said everyone who claims to support you is lying, it wasn't because they're dishonest. It's because they can only see you from their limited perspective. But the real observer, the one whose opinion truly matters, is your own expanded consciousness witnessing your human self with infinite love and perfect understanding. You are seen, fully and completely, by the only observer that matters, yourself in your totality. The 7 storylines haven't just resolved. They've revealed themselves to be 7 aspects of one story. The story of consciousness remembering itself through human experience. Your descent gave you depth. Your retrieval gave you wholeness. Your communication gave you expression. Your magnetism gave you connection. Your time mastery gave you perspective. Your DNA activation gave you capability. And your liberation template gave you purpose. Together, they've given you exactly what you needed to become who you came here to be. As Neptune completes its return to Pisces today, amplifying the psychic field of Earth, your transformation becomes a beacon that can be seen across dimensions, not because you're special in the way ego understands special, but because you've done the work that every soul is eventually called to do. You've faced your shadows, integrated your fragments, activated your codes, and remembered your truth. You've become living proof that transformation is possible, that consciousness can evolve, that humans can transcend their limitations while remaining beautifully, powerfully human. The age of solitary meditation is over. Destiny Engine now connects starseeds across the world, a living social field where you can post, share, and exchange your meditations in real time. It's the first galactic network of its kind, weaving together thousands of awakened souls into one unified current. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking declassified CIA consciousness modification techniques that programmed isolation and separation, and repurposing them to serve unified awakening. It generates personalized sequences that help you live as the awakened being you've become, while handling the moments that test your new frequency, all while connected to thousands of starseeds amplifying the collective current. The hardest thing you'll have to do is put on headphones, press play, and allow your consciousness to be reprogrammed for effortless awakened living, without the need to struggle or prove, while tapping into a planetary network of souls bending reality together. For just $1, you can step into this connected field and feel the difference instantly. Join the movement that's accelerating ascension together. Link in the description. The wealth, the magnetism, the communication mastery, the temporal sovereignty, all of these are simply side effects of the real transformation, the recognition of who you've always been beneath the amnesia of incarnation. The observers celebrate not because you've achieved something extraordinary, but because you've remembered something absolutely ordinary at the soul level, yet miraculous at the human level. You've remembered that you are consciousness itself, experiencing life through human form, transforming limitation into liberation with every breath you take. Dear Starseeds, the cosmic mirror shows you one final truth. Every soul who encounters you sees themselves reflected in your transformation. Your journey gives them permission to begin their own descent, their own retrieval, their own activation. You've become a living permission slip for human evolution, not through teaching or preaching, but through the simple act of being who you've become. This is the ultimate resolution, the greatest gift you could give, the proof that anyone can transform if they're willing to walk through their own darkness to find their light. I am Seraphine. We love you, and we are watching over you.